We'll go ahead and call to order this regular city council meeting for Monday, November 14th, 2022. If we could say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Lanyon.
Present.
Pratt.
Here.
Bellinger. Rhines.
Here.
Gilroy.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
And we did receive a call from Councilman Bellinger that he would not be able to attend. I'm looking for a motion to excuse his absence.
I'll make a motion to excuse Councilman Bellinger.
All right, do I have support?
second that.
Thank you both. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. And next, I'm looking for approval of our agenda unless there's other items that need to be changed, made. I'm looking for that approval.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you so much. Do I have
Support.
support? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries as well. And now we have an opportunity for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation, if anybody would like to come forward at this time. All right, we'll move right along then. We have our council meeting minutes of October 24th, 2022. I'm looking for a motion to approve those unless there's changes that need to be made.
So
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries as well. Moving along, we've got our accounts payable for this evening, and Dan, you had an opportunity to review for us.
Yep, I had a chance to look over the books in Noah's place, and I didn't see anything that needed to be pulled out for discussion.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion that we pay checks 76087 through 76161 and ACH 327 through 336 in the amount of $464,252.45.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Dan regarding accounts payable this week? All right, we have the motion on the table. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you so much. Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We have a very short action item list for this evening, so we'll get right into it. We have our Spicer Road Diet proposal, and I'll go ahead and turn this over to Scott.
Well, hello, everybody. Yes, you have in your packet online, or whatever this is now, a memo from me, and it has to do with the next step in our road diet discussions that we've been having. We've been working on this since like 2013, working back and forth with MDOT. We've had some studies done, traffic work, that type of thing. In our most recent discussions, John and I talked with MDOT, had a nice little meeting with them, and they said that the next thing you gotta do is get together a concept plan so that you can have a public participation, present that to the public. So we asked Spicer for a proposal. They provided what we think to be a very cost-effective and good proposal for $5,000 to put together the concept plan. And this is basically going to go from the east end of town to the west end of town, and then the first block north and south on Putnam. And it will include that in a plan view. There'll be a little bit of a blow up in the downtown area at a larger scale so that the business owners can see what's going on. But then, a smaller scale, or I guess, not as blown up in the area outside of downtown. We have to show, and that indicated what the existing layout is and then what the proposed layout is, so that we can, effectively communicate that and answer any questions.
Excellent.
What we also found out is that this document can be used as well for the bidding and construction purposes of restriping and signage and that type of thing. So
Great.
for a small extra amount of money, it was like $1,000, we got what we needed for the construction aspect, and we got the like a construction estimate so that we can say, here's what the cost would be.
Excellent. So we're very well prepared moving into this then.
Correct.
Excellent. Questions for Scott? Dan?
So I love that we've got Spicer coming in for the engineering. This is related to the proposal, but I actually had a resident email me on Friday that was wondering if we had gotten to a point in our discussions with MDOT and with how traffic flow is going to work through the light after we go with, have we discussed that at all with MDOT? Like, obviously we're adding the turn lane, but she was referencing like Jolly and Okemos, where you have one side, one direction goes through at a time, or
So what
different
the
things like
light
that.
sequence would be?
Yes, if she was wondering if we had, because the concern was just adding a turn lane, how much more does that, how much safer does that make pedestrians and versus what we have now, and I didn't know. I said we're very preliminarily, but now I see we're in discussions with engineering, but I don't know if we've gotten there, if we even wanna talk about that.
John?
Yeah, thank you. So historically, what was presented was the synchro model that showed the, the various iterations of the what ifs. If you had east and west with down to a road diet, and the north and south maintained the existing traffic conditions. So all of those were discussed in, I think, 2016, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So those things were contemplated then, but to that question, that'll be part of the design that we're gonna put together, but then it's also will be part of the public presentation. There hasn't been a final decision made on what exactly that would be, but obviously we wanted to improve the conditions there. And then when we had our discussions with MDOT, there was some discussion about, well, maybe preliminarily it would only be a turn lane and not a turn signal. And that's based on traffic counts, that's how they do that, with the idea that, if that was sufficient, then you leave it as is, if not, then you would upgrade it to a turn lane. Or, I'm sorry, a turn signal, an
Okay.
activated turn signal.
Okay.
Makes sense. Thank you, John.
Scott?
I can add a little bit to what John just said, and one of the possibilities I talked about was even changing the timing of the lights to provide a little bit of extra time for people that are staged trying to turn left before the other lights change.
Right.
So that's something that's up there for MDOT to look at.
So then when we're in these discussions and stuff, we will be able to have input with MDOT and ask them, this is what we would like, can we do it?
The other sorry, through the chair.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes.
The other discussion point came up, and is actually one of the ODOT representatives, and again, it's not, they don't have Williams traffic conditions committed to memory, but they asked about our signals, like the activated signals, we're like, yeah, we don't have those.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
what signals? And they're like, oh, and then they said, well, we probably should have those, like MDOT admitted that they should be there, so
Okay.
those will be part of it too. And those,
Excellent.
I know some people think they work. I mean,
Right.
they do trigger a recycling of the light
Good.
when you're there.
Good.
So I know a lot of people, it's like a placebo, and just keep banging on that little beeper, right? But
Right.
they actually do work. So.
Right, good, excellent. All right, Terry, did you have a question?
Yeah, so the question of whether it's a left turn lane or left turn signal, that hasn't been decided yet.
Well, there'd be a left turn lane.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
question that we are kind
Just
of
a lane
openly
with the
discussing is, okay, there's people in the left turn lane, do they have a separate green
Right.
arrow? Or is it not a separate green arrow and it's part of the normal signalization that happens with red, yellow, green?
Right,
And what I was mentioning a little bit ago was that sometimes what they will do is pause the other directions from getting the green light. And the other, say your worst traffic is coming from the north and everybody's waiting to turn left from the south. Sometimes you'll pause them coming from the north and you'll also pause the east and west, and then you'll let them clear out.
Yeah.
There's things like that that can be done that they would look at potentially. They're not gonna make any promises,
Right.
because it's all based on what the conditions at the intersection bear out.
So it has not been decided yet? No. Okay. And how many public presentations of this are we gonna have?
we haven't really settled on that, but I think as we get closer to it, we'll set up that cadence of what town hall forums we'll have, the literature that will go out. The whole marketing aspect of that is going to be coming, and John will cue us up on that.
Yeah, through the chair. The other thing too with the signals, if you notice, I think next time you're at a newer intersection, especially in the downtown area, a lot of them will have, there's a camera up top.
Right.
And that's actually
A
a
sense of
device
like a
that,
photo
yeah,
eye.
exactly, and we don't have that.
Yeah.
And it's an old signal, and MDOT admitted that, and we're somewhat fortuitous that there'll be a little bit of a cost reduction overall in the project, because they were scheduled to replace those signals anyway, sometime soon. So, and it's not a huge savings, but it's but that's the other possibility too, is having that ocular or that camera to read the queue up in the lanes. And those are pretty common in downtown.
Excellent.
And did we have, is there, and I read this, and I don't remember, is there a number at the end of this that says for this number of dollars, we'll get this thing done?
No,
Yeah.
no,
That has not been, that's part of the decision.
but it's all coming.
Spicer will
Yeah,
figure
we're
that
still
out.
working. Well, this is for the model, they're gonna make a mock-up, so that when we decide on those, public engagements, this is what will be
We'll be
used
showing them.
in those public engagements.
So,
After that, then we'll have a number.
yeah,
And that number, how much of that number is MDOT, how much is us?
We don't know that yet.
that's coming.
50-50?
That's coming. We just don't have those answers yet, Terry, but I love the fact that you're asking those questions.
Okay,
So we're gonna get to that point.
but you're not saying trust us.
Well,
You're
no,
saying
but,
that there will be a number.
right,
Yes.
there's yes, there's definitely gonna be a number.
Good.
So Scott, thank you so much for this, and I'm looking for that motion that Scott has suggested.
I'll make a move to approve the contract with Spicer Group Professional Engineering Services to prepare pavement marking plans for road diet lane marking conversion of M43 and Putnam Street in the amount of $5,000 and not to exceed.
Thank you so much. Do I have support?
Second.
All right, thank you both. If there's no further questions or discussion, I will ask Holly to call the roll.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Rock.
Yes.
Excellent. That's the conclusion of our action items for this evening. Moving along on our agenda to our discussion items, we have a work session for our 2023-25 water main projects. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over to John, our city manager.
I'm gonna click some lights on.
Excellent.
See a little better.
There you go, down.
Brandon and I are gonna kind of tag team on this a little bit. We'll work
Excellent.
together on the presentation.
Yep, rotate up there, I believe.
Helps you take the cover off the lens.
So just as a preamble, I mean, we were very fortunate and a lot of, and a little bit lucky, but fortunate to receive quite a big boost to our water project effort in the city. A lot of the information, you know, like much money of the infrastructure things we talked about, they've been discussed for a long time. One of the first slides you'll see is going back to the water reliability study 2013, identifying problem areas that need to be fixed. And so with the $3 million that we were able to receive through that direct congressional allocation, we're gonna be able to really play catch up to a lot of much needed infrastructure projects. So turn things over to Scott now, kind of make our way through the slides.
Excellent.
All right, first I'll just kind of remind everybody that we started at the source with our water treatment plant project, and we refreshed our wells back in 2010-11 time period, and then we started working out from there. Okay, we have a very good source of water, and the water leaves the plant at very high quality. Our problem has been out in the distribution system. We've got some water mains that date back to some of them as early as 1905. So some of them are well over 100 years old. And a lot of those older mains are they are cast iron pipe. And they do not have any kind of interior coating. So you have the interaction with the iron and the years of mineral buildup and so forth. So we've been doing our darndest in the years since to do lots of different unidirectional flushing. We've done things with phosphate in the system. We've done, really tried to attack it from the chemical and operational perspective, but we still are remaining with some of these old mains. We also have break history. We have spent time digesting what's left in the system and where our problem areas are. In this map, you've got some areas that we used to have some problems that we've already made some improvements, or just due to operational changes, we've gotten feedback from those areas that water quality's gotten better. We've got another area over here that those operational and chemical changes have helped, but until this gets looped back around, there's not a lot that we can really change as far as the pipes go. So the future plan for this area is when it develops, it'll loop back around, and that'll provide more movement within the system. We've got an area over here where we've got some older pipes, but we also have, some of the chemical changes has helped. That hasn't completely alleviated that area. Our worst problems are down on Williams Street, up here in Spalding Bismarck area, some stuff along High in this older neighborhood here. We've got some other small isolated areas in the downtown area as well that you'll see as we move forward. We have spent many years partnering with some, I call them canaries, basically in our system, that have had historically bad problems with water quality. We've done water testing on a pretty frequent basis with those folks. We have a really good baseline of what they're experiencing. And then incidentally, some of those ones that I mentioned have made improvements. Our results show down here as we were tracking those. And then other areas that we still have problem areas, they're still there, so. We've taken all this stuff, and some of you that have been on council for a while have seen this. We have a very large matrix of a Excel spreadsheet that we put in the water quality issues, sanitary issues, road issues. We got this big spreadsheet that we've broken it down by the major street network and then the minor street network, or I should say local streets. And we've talked before about the different bands in here, and this is related to the conditions of the streets. But then, I guess in the major part of the street network, the bands are fairly well evenly spaced, which means by the time that the streets get to the worst of the worst, we've been able to fund projects to do replacements, and then they come back down here and they're the cool colors again. And the nice thing is we've been able to, pretty much keep that on even pace. As streets wear out, we've been able to get them replaced. And that's significant because we also take care of the infrastructure underneath the roads at the same time usually. Like our North Putnam project that we have for next year, we're replacing water and sewer with that as well. So it stands to reason that we have had more of a struggle because of more limited funds on the local road network, but it also has impacted the infrastructure as well, because most of our water mains that are of poor quality, older, cast iron, all that, are in this part of the network as well. So the middle part of our spreadsheet is where we focus our analytics on the water system side. You can't really see it here, but the numbers in these streets right here show up nice and red, which means these are the ones that we have the worst water mains in.
Just if I, to pause a bit, if anybody wants to see that in a printout, that's, what is it, 30 by 40?
Yeah,
Something like
it's
that.
huge.
Oh, it's huge.
It's huge, but
Yeah.
I will say, having worked in other communities, it's very uncommon to have this level of analytical data across the whole strata. Usually communities will do PASER ratings on streets only,
Yeah.
but to have it tie-barred also to water, wastewater infrastructure is a really valuable planning tool for us. And that's how we got to, in a minute, he's gonna do the project unveil, but that's how we got to that, to start ranking the priorities. And one thing I wanna caution, we wanna do everything all the time at once for the lowest cost, right? We know that's not practical, so, I think that the program is a good schedule. I don't think it's, overly aggressive. I think it's very realistic, and I think we'll be able to accomplish all those things. We just can't get caught up in, well, you're doing this street but not that street, because we can't do them all in the same year. We just can't do that.
Right.
John wanted me not to get too crazy on you guys, so we combined everything. Basically, our newer pipes, our nicer pipes, the ductile iron, make up almost 80% of our system. This community has invested a tremendous amount of money since the early 90s. And this also includes the newer developed areas, because there's a lot of expansion that happened in the city in the 90s and early 2000s. So we won't have to touch that infrastructure for a long time to come. We have transitioned over to using PVC and HDPE pipe in the last 15 years or so, and those products are performing extremely well for us. So we anticipate that there will be more of those types of pipes in the system moving forward. Our cast iron pipe is about 15% of the system, and many of you have heard me say before, about a quarter of our customers are on those 15% of pipes. Okay, and that reason is we have some other pipes that run down the railroad tracks or outer fringes, and there's no customers on those, but they're important to the reliability of our network. They're kind of like the wheel of imagine a wagon wheel with all the spokes. Your customers are on lots of the spokes, but you have these bigger pipes that run around the outside to provide the pressures that you need and the flow that you need. And then we have a very small amount of AC pipe, and that is something that is at its end of service life, and we're incorporating that in the plan to get that pipe out of our system as well. So the last reliability study was done in 2020, and it identified kind of a roadmap towards what are the highest priorities and what directions we're going to. And we've been actually following that, folks. We've already ticked off 2 of the projects on there since 2020 already. And we got another project that's going to show up on North Putnam when our map pops up. So our priority timelines. So I guess, John, you want to talk about target on the money?
Sure, so because this is a draw count, which means, you know, we bid the project out, we hire the contractor, and then they submit bills to us, and then we pay them, and then we draw it down from the federal government. We have to phase the projects over a period of 3 years. The engineering proposal you approved from Spicer, it is inclusive of a 3-year project. And they were we had a pretty aggressive negotiation with them to make sure they maintain a price, because it is a big project, so we were happy with that ultimate engineering proposal. But in order for this to cash flow, we have to break this really into 3 major projects in 2023, 2024, 2025. And so that's what's reflected above there. I think I've stated earlier, previous meetings, we have to have the money obligated by 2024, which obviously we're gonna meet that, because we plan to start next year. And then we have to have it all drawn down by 2030, which is, we're gonna be way under that as well. So we tried as best we could, taking the projects that fit together from a price point, and also from, you know, in the matrix of how bad they were. And so really what you see there is you have like William Street, Red Cedar Crossing, and Spalding and Bismarck are like the major projects, and the sub-projects underneath, like the Alley, Lloyd, and then Leisha, I always want to say Leisha, sorry. And then the other streets are smaller projects, equally important, but just smaller from a dollar value. So these are how we match these up. Obviously, we'd have flexibility if a project is way beyond our estimate or way under, and we would just, you know, lessen the project or add to it. But we're really confident we'll be able to do the phasing in this way. And then when we get to the out years of 2025, we will be looking at DWSRF, which is Drinking Water State Revolving Fund money to pay for the balance. And in the meantime, we'll still, you know, it seems like a long time, but it's 3 or 4 years, but we're gonna aggressively pursue other congressional distributions. There may be other ARPA funds available. I'm surprised no one's asked me that since I've been here yet, but our ARPA funds are committed to the Putnam project.
Right.
And that's absolutely, you know,
Yep.
in my opinion, the right thing to do. And that was a decision made before I was here, but it's the right thing to do. So, so these are the projects. You know, Scott will click. Anybody have any questions at this point? I know that a lot of this stuff has been discussed over and over, but you know, it's for me, it's great to see here in reality.
It's great to see it actually with a timetable,
Yeah.
because this has been a very long time coming. We've done our due diligence. Scott, I mean, I can't give you enough thank yous for all the different programs that you've found, that we participated in, that we've had funding for, to get us to this point. Because you've done a tremendous job with, you know, from videotaping our water and sewer lines to see what it looks like inside, to, you know, just always being aware that we need to do better. And the one thing you always said, we can do it if we have the money, and we've got the money. So this is so exciting, and I'm so happy. Dan?
So, I love to see the timeline. My only question is, and I'm sure you guys have got this all worked out, and if I'm getting ahead, just let me know. But with the 2023 timetable, we've got the big project with Putnam going in 2023 as well. Do we think, and obviously it's all got to go out for engineering and all that, are we trying to run these concurrently around the same time? Do you think, obviously Williams is not a big thoroughfare for town or whatever, but I guess I'm wondering, could we get some cost savings if people have equipment already in town and they're working on Putnam and
Right.
any things like that? Or,
That's a good question.
Well, it is a very good question, and you do sometimes find that. The 2023 timeline for the first project does coincide with the North Putnam project, yes. We've also looked at the construction, what did you call it, the pain tolerance or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
that was my
For
other-
neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and how much of town you tear up at the same time.
Sure.
You know, North Putnam's a very disruptive
Yes.
project, so, you know, Williams being on the other end of town, it's unique from a few perspectives. One, it is absolutely one of the worst rated areas in town, so it was high on the list to get it done. Two, it's separate from everything else, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of traffic over there, so construction over here is not really gonna be impacted, like the neighborhood wise and traffic flow and that type of thing. the contractors could be interested in doing this. MDOT pre-qualified contractors are a little bit different animal than the ones that would typically go after just a more regular infrastructure project.
Right.
Because our HUD projects here that we're calling them are driven more by the underground infrastructure.
Right.
Okay? The contractors that go after the MDOT projects, MDOT kind of has they're just different in how they construct things, okay? And sometimes it's a little more expensive because of the different requirements that they have, okay?
Good question to try to.
So it's a good question,
align.
and it's actually, you might, because sometimes you have a contractor that does do both, and then you might not. And this way, we've got the best flexibility, the best opportunity to do that. And the other thing that John mentioned earlier was, you know, we've still got till 2030 to do these things. We put together this aggressive timeline, also knowing that if we get into this and it actually makes better sense to hold off on the first project to 2024, we can all discuss that and decide. But Spicer is already starting to go out there and do the survey work right now.
Right.
And they're gonna survey the first 4 project areas right now,
Okay.
so that we put those plans together. And why is that? Well, if we get into this and we find out that, well, you know what, there's a little bit left over, we can pull something else up into this for that first $1 million,
Right.
and we have that flexibility to do that.
That's great. That's great.
The other thing we're hopeful, and this really, it happened with the DDA parking lot project that we wrapped up over the weekend. Like, for the life of me, I thought that would be a $250,000 project, just because of the way costs have been. It's,
Right.
you know, it's in downtown, it's not a lot more asphalt than normal, but it's a long, you know, anyway. But that was $100,000 less than what I thought, just based on the pricing is. So, but we got the advantage of,
Yeah.
we had a contractor in town, that was working on the kayak launch, which was actually, you know, it's more concrete, but the sub, and that's where we may see a real cost savings if we have a sub on, let's say Cadillac Asphalt gets the bid for Putnam, and their underground sub has the stones to, you know, bid it on their own, we may get a cost savings there.
Excellent.
So we'll have a lot of activity, but trying to minimize like the cost save, or the community pain with construction, and especially, that's a pretty significant school route, so we'll be prepared for all those things.
Sure. Absolutely. One quick question, with the Williams Street, is that gonna also include the branches off McCormick, High, and Wint? That
The-
whole area?
The water main on Wint and Love and McCormick was all replaced in 1995.
Okay, perfect.
There is a 4-inch cast iron that runs east and west along Williams,
Yep.
that's the problem.
Okay, gotcha.
And all the
Awesome.
services will be replaced from the main to the right of way.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
So I was kind of looking back at this figure 3.3, the sampling, and I was noticing that like, the Fulton Street, it was really, really bad in 2017, like highest level on the chart, and now it's way down to almost nothing. Did we do like a Band-Aid fix to better that?
Would that have been because of our Middle Street project, Scott?
Bingo.
Okay.
That was another point that I was just gonna follow up and make, but you guys beat me to the punch on that one. So yes, you're talking about the red line here.
Yeah, the green line
Okay.
kind of follows suit too. It was really high and then it sort of kind of peters out there.
The green line is Spalding,
Spalding.
okay? So the Fulton Street area, yes, we did the project in 2017, the first project, and when we did that, we had to shut the main feed off to the north, and it caused a dramatic increase in problems on Crosman and Fulton and some of those other streets there. Because of constructability issues and the contractor working, we had to limit if a water main break happened, where would the water, you know, you got 20 valves to close, it would be a nightmare.
But it improved it greatly after.
After the project was done, everything improved greatly. We also found that, you know, that water main on Middle was feeding all those streets that were north and south. So there's been kind of an improvement in the adjacent water mains with that feed changing. We found a weird spaghetti noodle of water main rolling up and down and around a storm line at the intersection of Mullet and Middle. And when we pulled that out of the ground, I went, bingo, that is one of the reasons why we've had so many problems in this area. It doesn't completely eliminate the problem, but it has dramatically helped. And that's part of our philosophy moving forward on some of these too. As we were looking at which projects, you know, as we got into some of these, there's sometimes some ancillary impact on a local area, like the Red Cedar Crossing. We're anticipating that might help alleviate a little bit of the issue on High Street, which High Street's still on the list, but it's a little bit lower down, okay?
So do you anticipate maybe similar, like with the North Putnam project, maybe some other areas improve?
Correct. The North Putnam project is gonna improve some things, and there might be some additional impact down East Church. We've got some opening on East Church. So,
Yes,
Yeah.
Terry?
I had the impression, I don't know why this isn't, I think it's maybe incorrect, but I had the impression that the allocation of funds, the $3 million, was in the process, but it wasn't finalized, so we can't spend it yet.
No, it was finalized
It
last
is
fall.
finalized, it is for sure?
Yes.
Okay, just one.
it's locked in.
Yep.
We've
We
been
received
working
the
on what
letter.
the requirements are for us
Yeah.
to go through and request the money and all that stuff.
And I wasn't familiar with what, for years down the road, the DWSRF, what is that we're expecting to fund the?
So that's the state revolving fund,
Yep.
and that's a competitive process, and it's basically a 2-year, advance. You have to submit a project plan.
Mhm.
Well, you do a notice of intent now, then you do a project plan. And there's certain things you have to qualify for that. You have to have a updated reliability study, which we have. And then it's, like I said, it's a competitive process. There's a lot more money available than there has been because the state has allocated some of the Recovery Act funds towards that program. But it's just a revolving fund.
Optimistic we can get in on that.
Yeah.
25, 26.
Yeah, and it's even with the spike in interest rates recently, I mean, I think what's the latest, was it 2%?
It was 2.5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, and it's a bonding project, or bonding process where, there's 20 and 30, there's 40 here available now, they were contemplating that. Typically, the state doesn't go out to 40, rural development will do that. But yes, we're confident we'd be eligible because we have the demand. I mean, it shows, we have a lot of these analytics show that, and really to qualify in those projects, you have to have something really wrong. I mean, we don't have a lot of things really, really wrong, but we have
Well, we have
enough,
some.
we have enough in those areas
Yeah.
to qualify. So.
Well, and what makes it really nice too is the MDOT money. I mean, I can't say how much that has impacted us with our projects like Middle Street, like South Putnam. You know, when it's a primary road, we qualify for that MDOT money, what is it, every 2 to 3 years, Scott? So, you know, I mean, eventually probably we're gonna run out of those primary roads that, you know, but it's there, and that's that other source we can tap into. And, you know, this is something that we've been working on for such a long time, and it's just so nice to finally know that that light is really at the end of this tunnel.
The state revolving funds, you know, there could be something that we need to, like maybe we need to replace media at the water treatment plant.
Right.
And you can tie that into it, and it
Yeah.
might gain you some points or something. So there's things like that that we are looking at behind the scenes as well, anticipating some potential benefits there.
Did you have a question? No? Carry on, Scott.
All right, so to just kind of put it in action, we're gonna fly in some of the projects. There's our North Putnam Street project for next year. And then at the same time, we're gonna do Williams and then the downtown area here, basically right behind the building and down in the alley. We've already had a very serious and significant break that happened behind the 109 building a few years ago. So we're looking at, you know, this is the one block of the 4 blocks, the 4 corners here, that did not get significant improvements back in 1995 when the DDA paid for all the water mains to be done in the center of town. And then we're looking at a huge reliability issue here and improvements to both St. Mary's and some neighbors along this area. The water main going across the river is very, very old. We don't have a way to shut it off on either side without shutting off some of the customers as well as the school and the church.
Right.
So that's not good. So we're looking at fixing this crossing. We only have 2 other crossings. We have one at Putnam and we have one over here by the park. Okay? And that's it for the entire river. Everybody on the north side, if we lost this, we'd be down to just the 2. And That's not good. And then Lloyd Street is the only 2-inch water main in the system right now, and it breaks on a pretty frequent
Yeah.
basis, and I have a fair amount of water quality complaints there.
I live right near Lloyd Street there. The only, as a newbie city council person, the only all capital letters, exclamation point, like emails that I've gotten about the pavements on Lloyd. So this includes the infrastructure and the pavement, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
We've been doing patchwork on Lloyd for years. Every now and then we throw a little love on there and try and just get it by a little bit longer, but this is to help make it better. And then, oops. go ahead.
Sorry, while you were talking about the river crossing, I see that's one of the smaller area-wise projects, but it's still $1 million project. Is most of that having to go under the river, the boring under to replace that, or?
Well, we're anticipating $1 million to be here as well as
The work
on Lloyd, okay? And as we get, there's been so much uncertainty in the construction market for the last year. We've been somewhat conservative by not trying to make our projects too big, but give us the opportunity, as you'll see as I finish this up, that if we get into things and we're like, oh, we can throw a little bit more in, we have a plan for that, as we see where the numbers are falling in the next year or two. Okay, so the third year of this is we're gonna pick one of these streets. We did Middle Street. We had it, this is another ancillary thing. We had that project that sometimes people say, what'd you spend all that money on Elevator Street for? What a lot of people don't understand is Elevator Street wasn't, there was more infrastructure going on there than there was street work going on there.
Yep.
Because there was 2 crossings of the railroad tracks that we couldn't even, we didn't know what we would do if they broke under the railroad tracks. And we replaced those with one nice 12-inch line. We replaced the feed east and west from the water tower as well. And I've gotten, actually, someone just within the last month contacted me from South Putnam and said, did you guys do something in the last year? And I said, well, when did you notice? Oh, about the fall. Oh, okay. And they found that their water quality on South Putnam has been better. It kind of correlates to the fact that we thought it was going to help improve things. So, you know, there are some impacts that are positive, even on a street that's adjacent to where our improvements are going, okay? And then wrapping up with the DW SRF monies, we think we would be able to do High Street and then come down here and take care of the AC pipe area. And then we've got some backup plans for catching these other streets over here. This would really take care of that entire neighborhood. It just depends on how much can we afford and then which projects can we put it into. And, you know, that's so many years down the road, it's difficult to say with certainty what you can do at this point.
I think this is a fantastic presentation. I hope this is what we're planning on using when we get ready to educate our community and ramp up and talk to those, you know, like you've done so well with the other projects with Middle Street, South Putnam. Getting out, talking to those residents, letting them know what to anticipate and look forward to. This is fantastic. This just makes me so happy. Because it's just been such a long time coming. Questions for Scott or for John from council? No? All right.
Great guy.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. Really, I'm so excited about this and, you know, I know that we'll continue to talk about it, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
You want his life back on?
Yes, please, Tom. Thank you. All right, moving along on our agenda, we're coming now to our correspondence received and information. We did receive something from Detroit Edison regarding electric notices of a public hearing. So we'll just move right into department head reports and we'll go right to John.
Thank you, written reports there. Just wanted to point out, Baker Tilly will be here next time we meet. They did have a couple of other communities already pre-scheduled, so we'll have the rate study, and that will be for water and wastewater. Never sat through one of those. It's pretty compelling and to me it's interesting. Hopefully you'll find it the same. And there'll be a couple different scenarios presented. And keep in mind, it's the presentation of rates in a theoretical model moving forward. You're not setting the rates, you're not having the discussion to set the rates that night. And any of those discussions would be part of the normal rate-setting public hearing that we would have in the springtime in anticipation of the next budget year. So,
Great.
so there's that. Yeah, I was excited that the Old Mill parking lot in DDA got finished over the weekend. It looks great.
Yeah, it does.
We'll continue picking up leaves as long as the bad white stuff stays away. So maybe a couple more passes. I think our crews are doing a great job with that. DDA tomorrow.
Yes.
A lot of discussion items. Should be a good meeting. We're also having our first of our annual informational meetings required through the act to have those. And it's just a brief presentation of the previous year's activities. And notice goes out to all the taxing entities that the DDA captures from to allow them to come and participate in that if they choose. Typically don't see that, but nevertheless the opportunity is afforded. And same with TIFA next week. They'll also have their informational meeting. I do want to point out that the Cold Storage LLC did sign the purchase agreement for the ice house, so so they're in that process now. Part of the TIFA board will have to amend our plan because there's some modifications to the plan. When the plan was adopted last time, it had some specifics to the deal with cold storage, and those have changed a bit. So that's really the modification. So yeah, that's it for me.
Quick question.
Yeah.
The car lot that's down here on the east side of town on Grand River, right next to the gas station. I see that there's a for sale sign there.
Yeah, they pulled out.
They,
I wondered about this, okay.
yeah.
Did we do
No more
something
project.
wrong, do you know? Or-
No.
We kind of went through hoops, it seems to me.
We did.
But that's still changed, I mean, if
Yeah.
somebody else bought it, they could
Yep.
say.
Yeah, they could, yeah, because we went through the hoops and we made the modifications,
So it's
so,
probably much more marketable now.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, just curious.
Any other questions for John regarding his city manager report? All right, we did receive our report from Livingston County Building or Department of Building and Safety Engineering. There's still continued amounts of work being done, so if you do have questions regarding anything that has shown up on the report, please reach out to John so that he can get those answers for you. Subcommittee reports, I'll start with Tom.
We did have a decent meeting last week. Somewhat lengthy meeting, it was the annual proposed budget meeting, so we went through that and went over some ideas and made some suggestions, and we'll see where that goes.
All right, great, thank you. Terry?
Parks and Rec, the kayak launch was good, and the new pavilion there in Volunteer Park, that's good. They're all good, everything is a thumbs up there,
Excellent,
that's a good thing.
excellent, thanks. Dan?
ZBA has not met.
Okay. Brandon?
I'm currently meeting TIFA next week, and planning doesn't have enough members to have a quorum, so if you know people that want to be on planning, please let them know.
Right.
So planning has not met. I was invited by the school board though, and John attended as well, to their meeting tonight before this meeting. Dr. Spino retired from the military,
Yes.
and so the state of Michigan gave him an award, a notice, thanking him for his service, for his dedication to the city and to our country. So we attended that to congratulate him, and so very well received, and he was very thankful for it. So if you see him around town, be sure to thank him for his service and congratulate him.
Absolutely. And I've got something extra. We've got Holly's staff report. So Holly, would you like to share with us? So that
I
way
think I
our
wrote a
community
lot.
knows.
It was pretty thorough, I think.
Yeah. You had a great election day, and my hat's off to you. I know that it is a lot to work up to. The day is very long. You have a lot of volunteers. From what I can tell, everything ran very smoothly. So, quick little,
Very good.
report on that.
We're just thankful that, everybody was pretty happy during the day. Everybody was getting along really well. I was really appreciative of everybody getting along. The only real outside people, may have caused a few little hiccups, but they weren't our voters. So,
All right.
I thought that was really good, and it was really positive. Our election inspectors had a great day. We started the split shifts, and that seems to have made a tremendous difference. And everybody's, they're exhausted
Yeah.
after an 18-hour day, and then we're expecting them to close everything too, so. We did it the last election, and it worked really well, and so we were happy to be able to do it again at this one.
Good.
We got a good voter turnout, we had over 2,000 ballots tabulated, so I think that's really great. We're still
Yeah.
waiting for certified results, which I expect any time because I've already heard back from them, so.
Excellent.
And we
And-
just had a minor thing from Board of Canvassers that they couldn't read somebody's signature.
Oh, all right. So did you see an increase in the absentee ballot, people wanting to use that as their form of voting instead of showing up in person comparatively to 2020?
I think it was less than 2020 this time, but I think just the turnout overall was probably about par for course for
Okay.
that. So,
Excellent.
I mean, it was about half and half, half in person, half at 80.
All right.
So,
Excellent. Well,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you for everybody's effort, hard work. And I know you and Barb put a lot into it. And, again, you do it so well. So thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Quick question on that.
Yes.
2020, the big objection was that lines were really long and people would stand in line for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I voted in the morning, we walked right in.
Yeah.
We were at 200 or something, like, for the ballot that I cast. It was 900 and something total. So the afternoon would probably be a little bit busier, but was it still
It
kind of
was
like?
steady all day, but we made some changes to our processes to get people in and out. Without COVID, we weren't, having people stay 6 feet, and we could have multiple people, filling out the applications at once. We had 4 people able to do it. The first one that got in got to EPB, and then they got their ballot, and so it was quick. We didn't have EPB person picking up a pen to write ballot numbers down. We had the ballot person do that, so it just really sped things up. The
Okay,
first,
good.
15 minutes, we did 30 people,
Yeah.
so it was fast.
Excellent.
Excellent.
You guys
Glad to
did,
hear.
you guys did an amazing job. Both you and Barb both always do great work, but also your precinct chair. I was very impressed with him.
Yes.
When I came in to develop,
Yep.
because while I was there, the tabulator jammed a couple
Yep.
times. He
Oh,
he
didn't
didn't
have
get
those.
flustered at all.
Oh, no.
He just went
Yeah,
right
it jammed
over,
for
but,
Brandon too.
Yeah.
took care of it, no problem. But I know he's been your precinct chair a few times now, but
Yep.
along with you and Barb, he does a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have a technician come out that day, trying to, send some cleaning stuff through it.
Mhm.
It helped a little bit, but they do have to service it in January,
Yeah.
because, we were having the.
I didn't jam the machine, but I did overvote.
Oh,
So I had to come around a second time. That's-
You weren't the first or the last, or you were probably the fifth.
well, you guys do it with such grace. And again, just thank you so much. We'll move around to council member comments. So this time we'll start with Brandon.
Nothing besides great job running the election. Other than that, I got nothing.
All right, Dan.
Great job on the elections. Also, to Scott and John, great job with the presentation tonight. I think you did great work with that. I look forward to seeing as that move forward, but couldn't have asked for a better presentation. It was very informative. Great job.
Thank you.
Terry.
Thumbs up on the election. I'm an engineer, so I love the details and I love the planning, and you've got this thing figured out in so many different ways. It's, wow. Bravo Zulu.
Tom.
Hold on.
I'll echo everyone, nothing from me.
Oh, you skipped audience participation.
Oh, sorry. Audience participation. Anybody out there? Scott?
No comment.
All right. Tom?
Nothing from me.
All right. Well, again, I think, everybody has echoed the sentiments. Thank you so much for all your hard work and efforts for our election cycle. As we move into the end of this year, we have a lot of events coming up. The city is starting to look very festive. I want to thank DPW staff for getting the holiday decorations up. It's always that time of year when you can start, get excited about the end of the year is coming, the holidays are coming. It's time to just, remember what it's about and relax. Your crews are doing a fabulous job on leaf cleanup. So, barring any bad weather, hopefully, there's a couple more days of that. But in that same respect, there is snow in the forecast. So once again, a reminder, no parking on our city streets from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. so that DPW can get out there and do that snow removal when they need to. And just be mindful of that. It's dark earlier now, we went through our time change, so be mindful of, just people out walking, with it being darker earlier. But I'm excited about the season that is upon us and the activities that will be going on here in the city of Williamston. We have 2 more council meetings before we adjourn for the winter break, and before we come back for the new year. So I know that we'll have some changes around this table. I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn us at 7:50.